actually, I guess it's not under File. It's this File Import button right there.
Right.
And then the next step would be to align these. So
Sure.
Tools, Scan Tools, align between scan data.
Okay.
And you have three options. When they're this far apart to begin with, you'll do local based on picked point.
Okay.
And you have to specify which is your reference, which is your moving.
Okay.
So, and really that doesn't really matter
Right.
in your case. And you will want to make sure that these are aligned rough.
Oriented.
You're grabbing the right ends. And then you're clicking a point on one, and then you click a corresponding point on the other one.
Okay.
And they don't have to be, it doesn't have to be perfect. I can do it very rough to begin with because we'll refine it later.
Sure.
You just need 3 distinct pairs.
Okay.
And don't, it won't work really good if all 3 of them, if it's 3 in a line. So
Okay.
make sure one of them is kind of
Offset.
offset somewhere. So here. And again, I could be picking somewhere over here, but we want to align primarily to this,
Sure.
so that's why I'm doing that. And as you're doing that, this will be updating and showing you kind of a best fit where it's at.
Okay.
Then you click this
Right click.
apply,
Yep.
and it will refine based on what's there, and then it gives you kind of an overview of how close the alignment was.
Okay.
And you can click OK. And so now we can see, it's decent to begin
Decent
with.
to- yeah.
So then we'll do that again. Tools, Scan Tools, align between scan data. And this time we'll do global and fine. And this is the one that
Global and
allows
fine.
us to
Okay.
pick what we really want.
Okay.
And again, you'll pick a reference and a reference and a moving one. So, and the only difference is the reference stays still, the moving one moves toward it.
I see.
And even that, you can
Change.
do an option where if you want them both to move, you can have them both move.
Okay.
And then this partial is where you pick what you want,
Okay.
which parts of the data, and you have different tools for selecting. You can, use a paintbrush and paint the area.
Okay.
If you want to be real precise, the paintbrush is probably the way to go. If you want to begin with, you can use this kind of rectangle selection
tool.
and just pick a whole bunch, and it picks data from both scans at the
Both
same time.
scans.
So you're seeing here polyvertices of the one, polyvertices
Okay.
of the other. And if you need to, you can turn one off, turn the other on.
Okay.
And so you can, and it'll keep adding to it as you go.
All right.
If you accidentally pick some that you don't like, if you hit down Control and then do it, it'll take them back off.
Okay. So control is for removing it.
Yes. In this particular mode,
Okay.
because this is defaulting to an addition, or, adding them
Sure.
on mode. And what you can see is that with this rectangular one, it's getting both the ones on this side and the ones on the back side.
Sure.
If you want to be more precise, you go to paintbrush mode.
And then it just surface.
It's just the surface. Now, I
see.
already grabbed most of these, so it's
Sure,
not
sure.
adding new. But
Sure.
like, so for instance here,
Yeah.
I can add some new ones.
All right.
And and get it as I guess as
Close.
close as you can,
Yeah.
get as much as you want.
Sure.
And
It's a
then-
CAD file. Even if it superimposes a little bit, it'll
It'd still
superimpose
be-
everything.
Yeah. And so then the next, and in here you have a lot of options you can work with. The sampling ratio is how much data it's using. I don't normally do partial, so I'm not positive. Normally I set this to 100 because I want it to sample all the data. I'm assuming this means 100% of the things you've selected.
Sure.
That would make the most sense to me.
Right.
You may want to try it with and without and see if you notice a difference. But so
Okay.
you put it to 100. The rest of these, really,
Are
this
not
data
there.
is so good. You don't.
You don't need.
I would just leave them all unchecked. It's not gonna.
Okay.
It shouldn't affect your data.
Sure.
And then hit this triangle up here, and it should wiggle around, and should align. And again, it'll. If you click on here, it'll give. It shows just how awesome this alignment is. Like. Histogram is basically a vertical line.
Vertical line, so
Yeah.
it aligned very closely.
Yes, and it's showing, I'm guessing that it's showing mainly the partial data that we picked. That's why it's so perfect, because it isn't perfect all over.
Sure.
It's perfect in that one
In the
spot.
data, yeah.
And then Here, we can close that and get rid of that. And then hit the triangle, and that'll keep that data.
All right.
And so now you can see just how perfect
Close.
it's aligned.
Yeah.
If you wanted to do mesh deviation, you could
At this point?
Yeah, there's under measure, there's mesh deviation.
Okay.
And again, you're picking a
Target.
target, you're picking a reference. It's kind of the same interface. And then
And how? Yeah, I also wanted to ask what tolerances. How do you change that? How do you modify that? And then it gives you the data accordingly, right?
correct. So you would, and so here you can see what it does, and the and these are all things you can turn off and stuff like that.
Okay.
So I mean, this may end up being useful for you. This is kind of a simplified version of the other one,
Okay.
and also
Yeah.
again gives you a histogram.
That's good.
But if you need to change
No,
tolerance,
but I want the histogram only of this part. So how do I
Yeah.
do that?
I don't know if there's a nice way to do that in here. Well, okay. Well, there is a way to do that. Let me show you this other
can
stuff
I cut
first.
this part
yes,
off?
that's what we would end up doing
Okay.
is basically cutting out what you don't want. And so what you can do with any of these, it's just like Word or other things like that. You can do Control C, it'll make a copy. You can do Control V, makes a
Oh.
copy of it.
I
Do
see.
that with this one, Control C.
I
It
see.
always prompts you. And
Sure.
Control V. And so now we have copies of the same one. And so if you want, now I could go in. If you double click on it, it allows you to edit it. And
see.
I can say, okay, well, suppose I don't want all of this.
Oh.
Hit delete. And whoops.
Well, there were some other files below it.
Well,
so
no,
I can
what it
use
was is this defaults to
Surface.
visible only is what they call that. So I can go like this, hit delete.
Awesome.
Okay, so now that's there.
Okay.
And then if I want, I could go into this one
And delete.
and do
I
the
see.
exact same
Okay.
thing,
Okay.
delete. And then,
So that
Yeah,
can
and then-
actually, ideally, that can give me good data too.
yes. So now you could get deviation. The one thing that's a little bit
Which is-
funky, depending on how far apart these are, you might get some weird data.
Well, and again, the bar is not CAD designed. It's CAD designed, but it's hand CAD designed, so
Okay.
it's not the same connection.
Okay, and I could have been a lot more careful about this. I mean, you can go in and same
Yeah,
thing with
precisely
selection. You
cut
can
it.
go like this, and
Yeah.
it-
Get it?
and
Yeah.
because this came from a CAD file, it's such nice geometry. Everything is very easy, and
Okay.
these
So-
shapes are nice. So, but yeah, so if you wanted to do deviation, you could then
Measure
do that.
deviation,
You
okay.
could go measure mesh
Mm.
deviation,
That's
pick your two.
Oh.
If you need to mess around, change units and that sort of stuff, that's all under here, preferences.
Okay.
And it will pop up on your screen. And under general, you can go from millimeters to
Designers. Okay.
whatever you want. Millimeters is probably as small as it
Millime-
goes.
Okay,
And
yeah.
it'll give you
Point millimeters. yeah.
it'll give you fractions
Yeah.
or of a
Decimals.
millimeter. And then you can go in here and mess with
Tolerances, which I would have to do.
yeah, I don't usually do a whole lot in here. And it looks like this is more tolerances for how it does. It's looking for outliers, its alignment, that sort of thing. So I'm not positive. You might have to read up on that because I don't do a whole lot with the tolerances.
Okay.
The rest of the stuff you shouldn't have to mess
Okay.
with. But at least to get to millimeters if it's not that already.
No, it is there.
Oh, and you can you can change the default decimal places. So for you,
If
4
more.
might not be enough.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, it will be enough.
okay.
I don't want more
You
numbers.
don't want more numbers you can deal with. So let me go back to these two now. And so I'm going to turn off the reference planes. So now if you want to make some what we would call datum points or reference points, you go to reference point at the top, and you can choose. There's a whole bunch of different ones you can. They're pretty self-explanatory. And on any one of these, if you click on it and hit F1, it'll open up a help on how to infer,
F1.
yeah,
Oh,
how to
okay.
do what you're,
What you're trying
what
to
you're
do.
trying to do, and will tell you exactly what they are. So,
Okay.
for instance, circle center finds this. I mean, like self-explanatory, but still
Yeah.
creates a circle, a center point from selected entities, and you can choose. Now your data is going to be so nice that most of this won't
Most of
matter.
the
But if you
best
wanted
fit.
to, if it was noisy, you could do best fit.
Best
You could
fit.
get rid of outliers.
I
that
see.
kind of stuff. So
Okay.
anytime, whatever you're working on, if you hit F1, it'll bring up a context help.
Okay.
Yeah.
That helps.
Um,
That will help.
so now, if we want to find circle center, because again this is CAD, it's easy enough where you can just, I'm in the paintbrush mode, and it's just as simple as select
Paintbrush
all of them.
mode is
That one right there.
that one.
Yeah.
All right.
And if it's helpful, I mean, you can switch to different modes shading wise if it's easier to see the edges and stuff
Okay.
like that. And then after you've selected all these, it'll show up that there's polyfaces of that one in
Okay.
here. And make sure that you are only selecting stuff on, your one model, so
Yeah,
it
okay.
looks correct. But it'll be what you see is what you get. Then you
Sure.
hit the check, and boom, you have a point.
Point.
At any time, you could, click this and go in and label it. So click it, then click
Okay.
it again, and so
I see.
datum center, whatever you want to call
Yeah.
it. And actually, it looks a little bit off from what I would have expected.
It does look a little
Let
bit
me
off.
delete it and see if we can. I may have not selected all the points we would have needed. Find circle center. Make sure it didn't get anything we don't need. Fitting type, best fit, minimum bound. So let's see. Still off by a little bit. Why would that be?
Why is that pink dot there? What was the pink dot that came in? Did you see that? There are like two.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know why the pink dot's there. Okay, so let's see. There are different constraint options here. And what we can actually do is, this is a preview button,
Yeah.
so we can see.
We are getting two dots.
Yeah, oh, sorry, the dots are showing vertices. So you have a whole bunch of triangles here. So those are vertices of the triangles. Okay, so why is it off? You have it on best fit.